I'm calling in from the drop zone known as Toronto, Comida.
Ooh.
So it's be on the show, guys.
Ooh, in Canada, I believe it's Canada that has a giant pipe, like in I forget what lake or part of the ocean it is, that is just constantly streaming out diseased fish blood. And at some point there was video of it, and it was one of the most concerning things. I'm sorry to keep ruining your dinner because it's happening here too. I mean, we got crazy stuff happening in our stuff, but if you really want to never eat fish again,
next to the sushi place I ordered from tonight. So yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for calling in. We'd love to hear a story from you.
What do you think about ghost girls, little girls?
Like, are they like appearing in a house? Are they following you? Are they talking to you? Tell me more.
Thank God she was stuck to a house. So I was 18 at the time. I'm in my 40s now. And I'm a professional psychic medium. That's what I do.
Okay.
And so I got an email from a client down in a place called Goderich, Ontario, close to the border to you guys. And she goes, I run a hair salon in an old Victorian mansion, and we got all kinds of activity. And I said, say no more. I don't want to know anything ahead of time. So I was mentioning to my girlfriend at the time about going down, and she was told me, oh my God, she was a VJ on Much Music here in Canada, which is RMTV. So she goes, so why don't we take a van and film it, this ghost investigation? So we did. And the producer was a total skeptic, Andy. And so, he pulls up, we're doing B-roll cut for the film and everything. We got like 8 hours of film. And I told the homeowners you can't be home at the time, but the film crew didn't know this. So they caught a little girl with a bonnet in one of the windows on camera. And the guy's like, oh, I guess the family's home. I'm like, no one's home. So he starts to sweat bullets at this point. And we go in there, we're hearing thumps, we caught an EVP, electronic voice phenomena on tape of a little girl sounding like she's screaming. And I saw the name Grace. And the producer, being the skeptic, went into the town records and found that there was a little girl attached to that property named Grace. Whoa. Who died in the 1800s, late 1800s.
Can you explain what you mean when you say
I did a seance on camera and tried to help her cross over, because this was before a lot of the ghost shows, like where you have all these fat bearded guys yelling at the ghosts.
That's gonna be me soon. I can't wait.
Before you continue, can you just say what you mean when you said you saw Grace? Is this like a image in your mind?
Yeah, I do. I get a distortion in physical space, and sometimes even a little spark of light. But then I'll see a face, or I'll see an image that they project to me, almost like it's a movie playing behind my closed eyes.
Okay. And when you see that name Grace, does anything else come with it, or is it just like you're seeing or hearing this name?
The best way I can describe it is like hearing in a memory. And I know some viewers who have lost loved ones. Sometimes when you hear a message from them, it's almost like, and Tim Pool was talking about how it comes through your whole body, right?
Right. Yeah. We talked about that just recently on a Culture War episode with Representative Burleson, who had that kind of experience of like in his interpretation was a divine voice kind of just booming through his body. And yeah, definitely. I've talked to other psychic mediums. Actually, in that town I was talking about with the witches, I met a guy down there who had a very similar story to yours about an old, it was a young boy in an old house who he believed he was seeing, and the boy was telling him that he fell down an elevator shaft. It was actually the first elevator in that town, or I think in the state of Georgia. And very similar. He kind of had this memory that hit him. Now other people were saying he's crazy, but like your story, he was able to also find some evidence to back that up. But you said you did a seance.
Down elevator shafts. That's such a detail.
I know. Yeah.
That's actually how the beginning of Final Cut started. That movie I was telling you about last night.
Oh, yeah. Weird.
He has a kid try to follow him across this plank, and he's basically like, "Come on, don't be a coward."
Oh, wow.
And the kid falls and dies, and he just runs out of the house and leaves him there and never talks about it again.
Oh my goodness. So you said you had like a seance. Walk us through what that looks like, what that sounds like.
So I took the film crew, the VJ, Amanda at the time, and actually, funnily enough, Amanda went on to play the witch in Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency Season 2. So she's my partner in crime. We did this ghost hunting thing 18 years beforehand.
Wow.
And we sit in a circle, we light some candles just to bring the light down to take away our physical senses. Sensory deprivation is big in my line of work. You want to get your own physical distractions out of the way. And I was able to talk to her. We were sitting in the attic where she liked to be. And it was like exactly what you'd think an attic would be in a haunted house. It had the bird cage. I walked in there, I'm like, a bird cage, really? And so we're sitting with all this stuff around us, and I started to make contact with her, and I told her that she died because she didn't know. She was kind of in a dreamlike state. And I called forth the spirit guides, which are entities who agree to help us and help me with my work here on Earth, and they were able to help her cross over. So she was able to reunite with her family. She was who she was looking for, essentially, since she died 100 years prior.
And when you help these like spirits walk into, what would you say they're walking into? Is this like what is your picture of the afterlife?
It just looks like a portal. It looks like a slit of light. And I hear people say this. I've heard other psychics talk about the portals, and I have an allergic reaction to Star Trek shields and portals and weird things like this. I don't know. Like, where are the dead? I don't friggin' know.
Right.
But I know that I hear them. I know I speak to them. I know I get information like names and dates and specific illnesses. Like when my clients have a reading with me privately, they can't tell me what they're coming for. They write everything on a piece of paper and keep it hidden from me. They're not even in person anymore. I just do them on the phone.
Right.
And they tell me that I answer their questions in the order they put them on the friggin' paper. And that's the validation you need, right? So like when we had the skeptical producer, Andy turned out to be the best part of the show because he could verify everything.
Yeah, I think the problem is sometimes like I'm very skeptical of a lot of that stuff, but like the experience I had with that gentleman in Georgia, he was doing things that were very bizarre. And maybe he's just a great magician, but he was calling things that were quite odd. And but I've also seen people just be, total liars, fakes, frauds when it comes to it. And it makes me think of like Houdini. You know about Houdini's history with seances? Oh,
yes.
What'd you make of that?
Well, somebody actually did get the code word and tell his wife what it was, and she verified it. So a lot of times, and Howard Stern did a test on his radio show in the 90s, or this might be the early 2000s during the Artie Lang era that we all love.
Great, yeah.
And Artie had a code with his father that he agreed that if there was an afterlife, his dad would come through a psychic. And Stern was playing all these callers and mocking them. And this one lady called in and said, I'm getting elevators, something about elevators and the dock. And of course, Artie made it public knowledge he used to work on the docks.
Right.
Now, they laughed at it. They never caught it. But my father, of all people, who's a skeptic as well, said, son, it turned out Artie's code with his dad was the Otis Redding song, Sitting on the Dock by the Bay. Now, Otis Redding, Otis Elevators, hello, and the dock. So nice. People want that very specific thing framed the way they can accept it, and they're not willing to look at the pattern in the noise that sometimes comes through with this work. And that's something I did a stream earlier tonight about fake psychics, because we just caught and deported a Florida man who hit and run two teenagers on Christmas Day in 1998, fled to Toronto, opened up shop and started acting like a psychic here. So my field is quite saturated with that sort of thing.
When you said deport, I'm like, that's a funny way of putting it, but you like legit mean Canada deported a psychic.
We gave him back to you, so you're welcome.
Oh, so he was extradited. Okay.
Great. Yeah, back to Florida, where he belongs.
You guys could have kept him, honestly. Like, I appreciate it, though.
The Houdini seance stuff is always interesting to me because he at first loved it, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, he had that code with his, I think he was trying to find his mother who passed away. He was distraught when she died, and so he was trying to do a seance to talk to her. And then the person doing the seance was talking as his mother, but in English, and she didn't speak English. So he was like, this is totally a fake. And he went around trying to debunk like all the seances. And then like the seances and America have a long history as well. Because like during the Civil War, there's all this death and everyone's like, I got to talk to this person, that I lost at the war. Mary Todd Lincoln became obsessed with seances. She lost her young son, and she was holding seances in the White House. I don't know if you knew that story. Yeah,
I heard of that. And I wanted to speak just to one point because your show is so interesting and themed about the genetic modification. Back in 2017 and 18 and 19, I started getting, actually, I should say 2019, I started getting some of the first cases in Canada of people who died from vaccine injury. And the way it was being shown to me in the reading was the spirit person just showed me a needle. And I was like, were they did they take drugs? There's a medication, something? And the client goes, I don't know. We never knew it. They said the heart gave out. It turns out later on, all these clients come back to me, say they had the vaccine injury.
Whoa. Yeah, and all the scientific testing that's been going on, I think like that's not the only time. You look at like what I was saying earlier with all the weird experiments we've done. The syphilis stuff is insane to me. The Tuskegee thing, I don't know if they actually gave them syphilis. I think they just came in with the syphilis and then they didn't tell the patients they had syphilis and watched them die slowly over generations of people. But yeah, that is wild. And the guy who I was talking to is a psychic medium. There's another question for you. He was a religious fella. He was Baptist, and he really did believe, but he had this, what he called it, like a curse at first, because he kept hearing from the dead. Now people were saying you're crazy. Some people were saying, hey, you're just a crazy guy. Other people were saying, if you really are doing that, then that's like heresy. Are you like are you spiritual at all? Like, do you view this through like a religious lens?
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Okay.
I'm a Christian. And when I turned to the church and my pastor for it, it got stronger. That's all I can tell you. And I really thought when I was younger, I was possessed. I had all kinds of terrible, and I was one of those goth kids in the 90s.
Oh boy. Don't get me started on that.
I was one of that. And I just, when I started to realize, this has been happening since I was young. I was having dreams that would come true. I was seeing my dead grandfather who I'd never met. I go into my story on my channel and all that, so I won't bore it with you now. But I was seeing all this information, and at first, when you're young and when you're a gifted psychic, and this goes to anybody listening, you're going to get a lot of scary things like death or a major life change, and the reason for that is because you're not attuned yet, and the things you'll see and that jump out to you are going to be the life events, like a birth or a death. And as I honed in and learned to meditate and channel properly and give the information to the people it belonged to, my anxiety levels dropped and went down, and I became more extrovert, whereas I used to be very sort of like a raw nerve in the world. And I used to call myself a lightning rod, and now that I give readings, it goes through me, not sticking to me. And that's something a lot of psychics or young people who have psychic ability need to know about. That if you use it in a proper way, it will in some sense heal you, and it won't stick to you.
What do you make of then in the Bible when it says like you shouldn't be like having a conversation with the dead? Like, do you think there's a misinterpretation? Because I forget which which king it was that was speaking to the witch to raise the dead. But like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that on two levels. I think it's generally good for people not to seek out psychic mediums unless you really, really need them. I think there are too many fake ones in this field because it's not regulated yet. In Canada, the tax code for fortune teller is exactly the same one shared with prostitutes. So the government doesn't know how I turn a trick, but they know I'm successful at it. But
that's a good detail.
But in terms of the Bible, we know through scholars that it's been modified for political purposes several times, I think up to 25, 26 times. And somewhere around Emperor Constantine, who's a really bad guy, he put his pregnant wife into a vat of boiling water. I mean, killed his stepson. I mean, he's just a terrible guy. He's the one who banished psychic mediums from the temple, probably because we saw he was an a-hole. He didn't like us. So he's like, don't listen to those guys. And that's what I really think, because every religion, I've talked to scholars and religious people, leaders in the Christian church, in Jewish faith, in different faiths, and they just call me a seer or a prophet. Sometimes they say prophet. I really don't like that. But it's this idea that psychics are a natural part. Mediums are a part of the Bible. And many of the major figures spoke to us.
Yeah. The dead do speak in the Bible. Obviously, some people come back.
Which what I've found is, do not turn to mediums or necromancers. Do not seek them out, and so make yourselves unclean by them. I am the Lord, your God.
Where is that in? What?
That is apparently a passage in the Bible.
Just to say,
it's not telling me which one it is.
Well, especially the one we just deported back to Florida. Don't
Florida man strikes again. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate you calling in and sharing that story. That is wild. Do you have anything else you want to share?
I just love the show, guys. I'm a new fan, so I look forward to watching tomorrow.